The blizzard hit without warning. One moment, the Norwegian mountains were clear, bathed in the pale winter sunlight of February 1937. The next, the world disappeared into a wall of white so thick I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. The wind screamed like a living thing, tearing at our clothes, stealing our breath. And somewhere ahead, lost in that white hell, was our only hope of survival. Storm, our Siberian Husky, who had run ahead into the storm just moments before it consumed us. My name is Eric Johansson, and I'm about to tell you a story that has haunted me for decades. A story about a treacherous journey through the Norwegian mountains in 1937, about a dog who saved our lives, and about a truth so devastating it changed everything I thought I knew. This is a story about loyalty, sacrifice, and the terrible price of secrets. And it begins 3 days before that blizzard, when my father made a decision that would lead us all into the storm. It was February 14th, 1937. I was 17 years old, living with my father in a small mining town called Røros, high in the Norwegian mountains. My father, Anders Johansson, was the mine foreman, a hard man shaped by hard years. My mother had died when I was 5, and father had raised me alone, teaching me everything about mining, about survival in the unforgiving mountain winters, about what he called the code of men. Work hard, speak little, trust few. That morning, father came home earlier than usual. His face was pale, his hands shaking as he poured himself whiskey at 10 in the morning, something I'd never seen him do. With him was Gustav Berga, the mine owner's son, a man I'd never liked. Gustav was 25, arrogant, always showing off his expensive clothes and city education. He treated the miners like servants and my father like a tool to be used. "Eric," my father said, his voice strained, "pack supplies for 3 days. We're leaving within the hour." "Leaving? Where?" "To Trondheim. We need to deliver something. Important business." I noticed Gustav standing by the door, holding a leather satchel close to his chest. He saw me looking and turned away quickly. "In February? Father, the mountain pass is dangerous this time of year." "The weather." "I know the weather," father snapped. "We leave in an hour." "That's final." Something was wrong. I could feel it. Father's hands still shook. Gustav looked nervous, checking the windows every few minutes. And there was something about that satchel, the way Gustav guarded it, the weight of it, the way it seemed to pulse with importance. We prepared quickly. Food, blankets, rope, lanterns. Father insisted we take Storm, our 3-year-old Siberian Husky. Storm was a magnificent dog, pure white coat, ice blue eyes, strong and intelligent. My father had bought him from a Russian trader 2 years ago, and Storm had proven himself invaluable during the harsh winters, helping us navigate through storms and darkness. "Storm knows these mountains better than any man," father said, attaching the special harness. "If something happens, follow Storm. Always follow Storm. Promise me." "Why would something happen?" Father didn't answer. He just checked his rifle, loaded it with more ammunition than necessary for a simple journey. We set out at noon. The plan was to cross the mountain pass, a treacherous route that would take 2 days in good weather, and reach Trondheim, where Gustav had business to attend to. From there, father and I would return home. Simple. Routine. Except nothing about this felt routine. The first day went smoothly. We made good progress, following the old mining trail that wound through the mountains. Storm ran ahead as always, his powerful legs churning through the snow, occasionally looking back to make sure we followed. The weather was cold but clear. Father barely spoke, his jaw clenched, his eyes distant. Gustav talked constantly, nervous chatter about nothing important, clutching that satchel like it contained his life. That night, we made camp in a small cave father knew. As we sat around the fire, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind all day. "Father, what's in the satchel?" Gustav's head snapped up. Father's face hardened. None of your concern, boy. If we're risking our lives crossing these mountains in February, I think I have a right to know." "You have a right to nothing but obedience," Father said coldly. "Now get some sleep. Tomorrow will be harder." I lay awake that night, listening to Storm's soft breathing beside me, watching shadows dance on the cave walls. I heard Father and Gustav whispering, their voices too low to understand but heavy with tension. Once, I heard Gustav say something about the police, and before they find out, my stomach tightened. What had they done? The second day started badly. The temperature had dropped significantly, and the wind picked up. Storm seemed agitated, stopping frequently, his ears flat against his head, a sign of danger I'd learned to recognize. The sky had that peculiar gray quality that meant a storm was coming. "We should turn back," I said. "Storm senses something. A storm is coming." "We're halfway there," Gustav said quickly, desperately. "We can't turn back now. We have to get to Trondheim." "Why?" I demanded. "What's so important that it's worth dying for?" "Eric, enough," Father said, but his voice lacked conviction. He was scared. I could see it in his eyes. And he wasn't scared of the storm. We pressed on. By mid-afternoon, the first snowflakes began to fall. Within minutes, they multiplied. Within half an hour, we were in a full blizzard. Visibility dropped to nearly zero. The wind became a physical force, pushing us backward, threatening to sweep us off the narrow mountain trail. "We need shelter," I shouted over the howling wind. "Now! There's a shepherd's hut another kilometer ahead." Father yelled back. "We can make it," but we couldn't see a meter ahead. The trail disappeared under fresh snow. The mountain became a maze of white, every direction looking the same. We were lost. That's when Storm did something extraordinary. He stopped, looked back at us, then barked 3 times, a signal Father had taught him for "follow me." Then he ran forward into the storm, disappearing into the white. "Storm!" I screamed. "Come back!" "Let him go!" Father grabbed my arm. "He'll find the hut. He always does. We follow his tracks." So we followed. Step by step, through hell itself, we followed the rapidly disappearing paw prints in the snow. My face went numb. My hands couldn't feel anything. Gustav was crying, stumbling, cursing. Father pulled him along by force. We followed Storm's trail for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 minutes. And then, miraculously, the tracks led us to a small stone structure, the shepherd's hut. Father kicked open the door, and we tumbled inside, collapsing on the floor. The hut was tiny, barely large enough for 3 men, but it was shelter. We were alive. "Storm!" I gasped, looking around. "Where's Storm?" The hut was empty. Storm wasn't there. I stumbled back to the door, looked out into the blizzard. Nothing. Just white madness. No dog. No tracks. The snow had already covered everything. "Storm!" I screamed into the storm. "Storm!" No answer. Just the wind's cruel laughter. "He'll find shelter," Father said, pulling me back inside. "He's a smart dog. He'll survive." But I saw the doubt in his eyes. In this storm, nothing survived outside for long. We huddled in that hut for 2 days while the blizzard raged. We rationed our food. We took turns staying awake to keep the small fire going. And I watched my father deteriorate. Not physically, though we all suffered from the cold and hunger, but mentally, emotionally. He stared at the walls, muttering to himself, occasionally looking at Gustav with something like hatred. On the second night, Gustav finally broke. "It's my fault," Gustav sobbed, the satchel still clutched to his chest. "All of this, the storm being lost. It's all because of what I've done." "Shut up," Father hissed. "Eric doesn't need to know." "Doesn't need to know what?" I demanded. "Father, what is going on?" Father closed his eyes. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a voice like gravel, he began to speak. 3 weeks ago, Gustav came to me with a problem. A big problem. He had been stealing from the mine. That would be too obvious. He'd been falsifying accounts, taking money meant for workers' wages, for safety equipment for families. Over 50,000 kroner. I stared at Gustav, who couldn't meet my eyes. His father was about to discover it, father continued. An audit was coming. Gustav would be arrested, imprisoned. He begged me to help him. Why would you help him? I asked, my voice cold. You've worked in that mine for 25 years. Those are your fellow miners he stole from. Because he had leverage, father's voice cracked. He knew something. About me. About your mother. My heart stopped. What about mother? Father's hands trembled as he spoke. Your mother didn't die of illness, Eric. That's what I told everyone. That's what I've been telling you for 12 years. But the truth is, she killed herself. She took her own life. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? No. That's not. Why would she? Because I had an affair, father said, tears streaming down his weathered face. With Gustav's aunt, Ingrid. Your mother found out. She couldn't bear it. She walked into the winter night and never came back. They found her frozen body 3 days later in the forest. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. My entire childhood, my entire understanding of my past, shattered in an instant. Gustav's father knows the truth, father continued. He's kept it secret all these years. But Gustav threatened to tell everyone, to destroy your mother's memory, to make you know that your father drove your mother to suicide, unless I helped him. So you did, I said, my voice hollow. You helped him steal. You became an accomplice. I forged the documents, father admitted. I helped him hide the missing money. And now we're taking it to Trondheim, to a banker Gustav knows who will help him disappear. 50,000 kroner in that satchel. Money stolen from miners who can barely feed their families. You're a coward, I said. Both of you. I did it to protect you. Father shouted. To protect your mother's memory. To protect you from the truth. The truth that you're a thief? That you're helping this parasite escape justice while the miners he stole from will suffer. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. I stood up, rage boiling in my veins. Storm is out there, probably dead because of this. Because you two are criminals running from justice. Watch your mouth, boy, Gustav snarled, finding some courage now that his secret was out. Your father did what he had to do. He's protecting his family. By betraying everyone else? By stealing from people who trusted him. The argument escalated. Voices raised. Father tried to justify his actions. I condemned him. Gustav defended himself with increasing desperation. The tiny hut became a prison of accusations and revelations. Then, on the third morning, the storm broke. The blizzard ended as suddenly as it had begun. We emerged from the hut into a world transformed. Fresh snow everywhere, brilliant sunshine, crystalline air so cold it burned our lungs. And silence. The kind of silence that speaks of death. We need to go, Gustav said immediately. We're only half a day from Trondheim now. We can still make it. We need to find Storm, I said. The dog is dead, Eric, Gustav said bluntly. No animal survives 3 days in that storm. We're not leaving until I look for him. We don't have time. I don't care about your stolen money or your escape plan. I roared. Storm saved our lives. He led us to this hut. I'm not abandoning him. Father looked between us, torn. Then he made his choice. We look for 1 hour. If we don't find him, we continue to Trondheim. I wanted to argue, to demand more time, but I saw the stubbornness in Father's eyes. 1 hour was all I would get. We spread out, calling Storm's name, following possible tracks, checking every snow drift and hollow. The mountains were vast and indifferent. Finding one white dog in this endless white landscape seemed impossible. 45 minutes passed. Nothing. Gustav kept checking his pocket watch, growing more agitated. Time's up. We need to go. Just a few more minutes, I begged. No. We go now, or I go alone. Father nodded reluctantly. Eric, we tried. Storm is gone. We have to accept that. I felt tears freeze on my face. Storm, my loyal companion, my friend. Lost in the storm he had braved to save us. It wasn't fair. Nothing about this was fair. We started walking toward Trondheim, following the trail that would take us down from the mountains. My heart was heavy, not just with grief for Storm, but with hatred for the two men I walked with. One who had betrayed everything he stood for, and one who was a thief and a manipulator. We walked in silence for about an hour. The trail descended into a narrow valley, with steep rock walls on either side. Father led the way, Gustav in the middle, me trailing behind, numb with cold and despair. Then I heard it. A sound so faint I almost missed it. A whine. A dog's whine. I stopped, listening. There it was again. Weak, pitiful, but unmistakable. "Storm!" I shouted. "Storm!" A bark answered. Weak, but there. Alive. I ran, following the sound. Father and Gustav called after me, but I didn't care. The bark came from off the trail, down a steep slope. I half ran, half slid down the icy incline, calling Storm's name. And then I saw him. Storm was trapped in a narrow crevasse between two rocks, buried up to his chest in snow. He must have fallen in during the storm and been unable to climb out. His white coat was dirty, matted with ice. He was shivering violently, his breathing shallow. But his tail wagged weakly when he saw me. "I found him!" I shouted up to Father. "He's alive! He's alive!" I heard scrambling as Father and Gustav made their way down the slope. I was already digging Storm out with my bare hands, not caring that they were going numb. "Easy boy," I whispered. "I've got you. You're going to be okay." Father reached me and started helping dig. Even Gustav, despite his urgency to leave, helped. We cleared the snow, found Storm's legs. One was injured, probably broken. "We need to carry him," Father said. "Eric, you and I will make a stretcher. Gustav, give us your coat to wrap him in." "My coat? It's expensive." "Give him your coat," Father said with such cold authority that Gustav immediately complied. We wrapped Storm in Gustav's coat, fashioned a makeshift stretcher from branches and rope, and carefully lifted him. Storm whimpered, but didn't struggle. He trusted us. "This will slow us down," Gustav complained. "We could be in Trondheim in 2 hours, but with the dog." "Then go ahead," I said coldly. "Take your blood money and run. We'll follow with Storm." Gustav looked at Father, expecting support. But Father was staring at Storm, at the injured dog we were preparing to carry down the mountain. Something in his face had changed. "Gustav," Father said slowly, "I can't do this." "What?" "I can't help you anymore. I can't keep running from what we've done. Anders, we had a deal. The deal is off." Father stood up, towering over Gustav. "Storm nearly died because of our cowardice. He sacrificed himself to save us, criminals running from justice. And here he is, broken and freezing, while we carry stolen money down the mountain. You're backing out now? After everything?" "Yes. We're taking Storm to Trondheim, to a veterinarian. And then I'm going to the police. I'm going to confess everything. The forged documents. The theft. All of it." "You can't." Gustav's face went pale. "I'll expose your secret. I'll tell everyone about your wife." "Then do it," Father said quietly. "Tell them. Tell Eric. Tell the whole town. I don't care anymore. Living with this shame, this guilt, it's worse than any truth could be. I've been a coward and a criminal. It's time I faced what I've done." Gustav stared at him, then at me. I saw calculation in his eyes, then panic. Then decision. He ran. Gustav grabbed the satchel and ran, scrambling up the slope toward the trail, slipping and sliding in his expensive city shoes. "Let him go," Father said when I moved to follow. "The police will find him. They always do. Right now, Storm needs us." So we let Gustav run, and we focused on Storm. The journey down the mountain with Storm was agonizing. Every step jarred his injured leg. Every whimper tore at my heart. But Father and I took turns carrying the stretcher, moving as quickly and gently as we could. Father talked as we walked, words spilling out like poison finally being purged from a wound. "Your mother was the best person I ever knew," he said. "Kind, patient, good. And I betrayed her. Not once, but repeatedly. The affair with Ingrid lasted almost a year. Your mother knew but said nothing, hoping I would come to my senses. When I didn't, when I just kept lying to her face every day. He choked on the words. She left a note. I burned it, but I remember every word. She said she couldn't live in a world where the person she loved most had become a stranger. She said she was sorry she couldn't be strong enough to forgive me. Father, I should have told you the truth years ago, but I was ashamed. And then Gustav's family agreed to keep the secret, and it became easier to just lie. To tell you she died of illness. To pretend I was a grieving widower instead of the man who drove his wife to death. You didn't kill her, I said, though the words tasted like ash. She made her own choice. Did she? When someone's world is destroyed, when the person they trusted most betrays them, is suicide really a choice? Or is it just the only escape they can see? I had no answer. We walked in silence for a while, focusing on Storm, on not causing him more pain. We were about an hour from Trondheim when we heard the gunshot. It came from ahead, from the trail. A single sharp crack that echoed off the mountains. Father and I looked at each other. Without a word, we carefully set down Storm's stretcher and ran toward the sound. We found Gustav about half a kilometer ahead. He had stumbled, his city shoes no match for the treacherous mountain ice. He had fallen badly, tumbling down a steep section of the trail. When we reached him, he was lying in the snow, his leg bent at an unnatural angle. The satchel had burst open, and 50,000 kroner in bills were scattered across the snow, fluttering in the wind like dying birds. And standing over him, rifle pointed at his chest, was a Norwegian police officer. Don't move, the officer commanded, then saw us. You two, stop right there. We stopped. Father slowly raised his hands. Officer, my name is Anders Johansson. I'm the one you want. Gustav Berga, and I stole this money from the Røros mine. I forged the documents. I'm here to confess. The officer looked confused. You're confessing? Yes, and I'll tell you everything. But first, please, we have an injured dog that needs medical attention. He saved our lives. Please, can we get him to a veterinarian before we go to the police station? The officer, his name was Olav Hansen, we learned later, stared at us for a long moment. Then he lowered his rifle. There's a veterinarian in Trondheim, Dr. Larsen. We'll take the dog there first. Then you'll tell me everything. And so, in the most surreal moment of my life, we carried Storm down the mountain accompanied by a police officer who kept his rifle pointed at Gustav while Father told him the whole story. The theft, the blackmail, the affair, my mother's suicide, everything. Father's voice was steady, almost relieved, as if telling the truth was itself a kind of freedom. Officer Hansen listened without interrupting. When Father finished, Hansen was quiet for a moment, then said, You're a brave man, Anders. Stupid, but brave. Not many men confess when they have the chance to run. I've been running for 12 years, Father said. I'm tired of running. We reached Trondheim as the sun was setting. Dr. Larsen, a kind elderly man who clearly loved animals, examined Storm immediately. The leg was broken in 2 places. There was frostbite, dehydration, exhaustion. I won't lie to you, Dr. Larsen said. It's serious. He might lose the leg. He might not survive the night. But he's a fighter. I can see it in his eyes. Do everything you can, I begged. Please. He saved our lives. I will, son. I will. They took Storm to the back room. I wanted to follow, but Officer Hansen shook his head. You two need to come with me now. We've delayed long enough. At the police station, Father and Gustav were arrested. Gustav ranted and raved, claimed he was coerced, threatened to sue everyone. Father stood quiet and dignified, accepting his fate. They let me go home. I was a minor and hadn't committed any crime. But before I left, Father asked to speak with me. We sat in the interrogation room, a police officer standing guard. Eric, Father said, I know you hate me right now. You have every right to. But I want you to know something. Storm taught me a lesson today. Storm? He ran into that storm knowing it might kill him. He sacrificed himself to save us, even though we didn't deserve it. Even though we were criminals running from justice. He didn't judge. He just did what was right. Father's voice broke. That's more honor than I've shown in 12 years. A dog has more integrity than I do. Father, when I get out, if I get out, I'm gonna try to be the man your mother thought she married. The man Storm thought he was saving. I'm going to try to deserve the sacrifice he made. The trial took place 3 months later, in May 1937. Father pleaded guilty to forgery and being an accomplice to theft. Gustav was convicted of embezzlement and theft. Gustav got 6 years in prison. Father got 3, with credit for confessing and cooperating with authorities. The scandal rocked our town. My mother's suicide became public knowledge. Some people were sympathetic, understanding that father had been blackmailed. Others were not. The families of the miners who'd been stolen from were understandably angry. But something unexpected happened. The mine owner, Gustav's father, was so ashamed of his son's actions that he personally repaid every kroner that had been stolen with interest. He also established a fund for miners' families and improved safety conditions at the mine. Good came from evil in a strange way. As for Storm, he survived. He lost his leg, but Dr. Larson crafted a special brace that allowed him to walk, even run. When I went to pick him up from the veterinarian 6 weeks after that terrible journey, Storm limped to me on 3 legs, his tail wagging furiously, his blue eyes bright with joy. I cried. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I held that brave, loyal dog and cried. Dr. Larson refused payment. That dog is a hero, he said simply. Heroes don't get charged. I visited father in prison every week. We talked more in those 3 years than we had in my entire life. About mother. About his mistakes. About forgiveness and redemption. About how easy it is to become the person you never wanted to be, one compromise at a time. I told myself I was protecting you, father said during one visit. But I was really protecting myself. From shame. From consequences. From having to face what I'd done. Gustav's blackmail gave me an excuse to keep lying, to keep running. But Storm showed me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop running and face the truth. Father served his 3 years and was released in 1940, just as the world was descending into war. He returned to Røros a changed man, humbler, kinder, more honest. He worked in the mine again, not as foreman, but as a regular miner. He never tried to regain his former position. He said he didn't deserve it. Storm lived for 8 more years, happy and loved. He learned to navigate on 3 legs with remarkable agility. Children in the town would gather to hear the story of the brave Husky, who saved 3 men in a blizzard and lost his leg doing it. Storm became a local legend. When Storm died in 1945, peacefully in his sleep, the whole town came to his burial. Even the miners who had been stolen from came to pay respects. We buried him on a hill overlooking the mountains he'd guided us through, with a simple stone marker that read, Storm, loyalty beyond measure. I'm an old man now, telling this story 86 years later. Father is long gone. Gustav died in prison in 1942, influenza. The mine closed in the 1970s. Most of the people in this story are dust and memory. But I remember Storm. And I remember the lesson he taught us that day in 1937. Loyalty doesn't mean blindly following someone into darkness. True loyalty means doing what's right, even when it costs you everything. Storm ran into that blizzard not because he was trained to, but because he chose to. He sacrificed himself not for reward or praise, but because he loved us. And his sacrifice showed my father what real courage looks like. Not the courage to run and hide, but the courage to face the truth and accept the consequences. My father spent years lying to protect himself, compromising his integrity one small step at a time, until he became someone he didn't recognize. He thought he was being strong, being pragmatic, but it was Storm, a dog, who showed him what real strength was. I learned something too. I learned that the people we love will sometimes disappoint us. They will make terrible choices. They will hurt us. But that doesn't mean they can't change. My father died a better man than he lived most of his life. Not because his crimes were erased, but because he faced them, accepted responsibility, and tried every day after that to be worthy of the sacrifice a brave dog made for him. If you take one thing from this story, let it be this. Integrity isn't about never making mistakes. It's about what you do when you've made them. Do you run and hide, making excuses, blaming others, digging yourself deeper? Or do you stop, face the truth, and accept the consequences? Storm couldn't speak. He couldn't argue or justify or explain. He could only act. And his action, running into that storm, guiding us to safety, sacrificing his leg and nearly his life, spoke louder than any words ever could. Sometimes the greatest teachers walk on four legs. Sometimes the greatest courage comes from the smallest acts of truth. And sometimes the hardest journey isn't through a mountain blizzard, but through the darkness of our own compromised souls, back toward the light of integrity. My father found that light again, thanks to a dog named Storm. And I learned that love means holding people accountable while still believing they can be better. That's the lesson Storm taught us on a mountain in Norway in 1937. That's the lesson I've carried every day since. And that's the lesson I hope I've passed on to you. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the incredible bond between humans and their loyal dogs, please like this video and subscribe to Paws of History. We share true stories about remarkable animals who changed lives, taught lessons, and showed us what loyalty really means. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our stories. And tell us in the comments, has an animal ever taught you an important lesson about life? Share your stories below. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from those who can't speak. They can only love, sacrifice, and show us what it means to be truly loyal.
Paws of History, because every story leaves a paw print, and its memories stay with us forever.